Let's look at decimals. A decimal is a number with both a whole number and a fractional part separated by a decimal point. For example, 4.72 is a decimal because it has a whole number 4. It has a fractional part, and the two are separated by a decimal point. So a number, any number that's in that format is what we call a decimal, or a decimal number. And someone would say, what about a number like 0.25? This is also a decimal because you remember 0 is a whole number. Whole numbers start from 0. It has a decimal point, and it has a fractional part. And this part of the decimal is always less than 0, less than 1. So for example, if I have a decimal like 47.2, remember from your knowledge of place values, this is in the place of tens. So we have 4 tens, we have 7 ones, and we have this that come after the decimal place would be, we have 2 tenths. We could have hundredths, we could have thousandths, and so on and so on. After the decimal place, we name them in this format. So basically, that's what we mean by a decimal in mathematics. Let's look at the types of decimals. Yeah, what we call terminating decimals, like this one, 0.34 is a terminating decimal. It's a terminating one because after the decimal point, these numbers that come are finite. They're countable. They stop after some time. So that's what we call a terminating decimal. Stops somewhere. We could have 0.453 is a terminating decimal, and so on. As long as it stops somewhere, then it's said to be terminating. What we call recurring decimals, and those are decimals of this nature, 0.3333 and so on. Decimals which have numbers after the decimal point that keep on repeating indefinitely, keep on repeating infinitely. Those numbers, those decimals are called recurring decimals. And the numbers that are repeating could be 1, could be 2, could be more than 3 numbers. As long as the numbers are repeating an uncountable number of times, then we say that's a recurring decimal. 2.456, 456, 456, and so on is a recurring decimal because the numbers 456 keep on repeating infinitely many times. Then we have another category. We have non-recurring decimals. Those ones are numbers that are not terminating, they're not recurring, they're non-terminating, non-recurring. For example, 2.374216, and so on. The number like this is non-recurring and non-terminating because these numbers after the decimal place, the decimal point seem to be continuing without any specific pattern. So this is called a non-recurring decimal. It is also non-terminating. Those are the types of decimals we commonly have. First example we're looking at under decimals says convert 0.25 to a fraction. Now, in order to convert any decimal to a fraction, you first check, is it recurring or non-recurring? Is it terminating? This is a terminating decimal, so it's very easy to convert. A terminating decimal, it will be 0.25 is the same as, you just count the number of decimal places, 1, 2. So this is the same as 25 out of 100. I could take this, if I multiply it by 100, if I divide this by 100, it gives me this. Then what is left to do is just to reduce by 25 once, by 25 4. So 0.25, the same as a quarter in fraction form. Convert 8.75 to a fraction. As long as the fraction is terminating, it's very easy to convert it. Just play around with the number of decimal places. 1, 2, this decimal place can be moved to the end here by multiplying by 100. So we're going to get this, 875 divided by 100 is the same as this decimal we have. And then all we're left to do is to reduce by 25, that's 35, by 25, that's 4. You could first divide by 5, then again by 5. It's the same thing. You come to this, so this is the fraction. If we want it as a mixed fraction, then we need to ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 35? It goes there 8 times, and that is 4 times 8 is 32, so it gives a remainder of 3, and 3 over 4. This and this are the fractional forms of this decimal.